I think you distinguish, you handsome little devil.
Thank you.
There
Thank you.
you go. It's all right. Wait a minute. It's just occurred to me. You're the only one with a full head of real hair, Curry. Okay. I'm not mad.
Well,
That's what happens to the kids, to the youth. Well, let me come on up. Let me shut up. Yeah, that's what the afros are for the young. That's what you got all the hair,
It's
but
not
he's
his
got
hair.
dark hair still. Okay.
It's a wig.
Jealous, jealous. We're gonna come on up in 5. Stop, you guys. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you once again. Did you see the Super Bowl? You know we've got to talk about Kendrick Lamar. We've got to, and I've got the all-star lineup led by Dave Zirin of The Nation magazine to talk about it, to interpret this groundbreaking halftime show. There was so much that was packed into it, and I want us to unpack it a bit so that we can understand what we saw. But we have to have this conversation about it, because this is, what did he say? The revolution will be televised. Yeah, it's the right time. You just got the wrong guy. What was he talking about? I want you to go to Blue Sky, Santita Jackson, .bsky.social. That's where I am on Blue Sky. I'm at Santita J on X. Yes, I'm still there. The Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Please, that is the only page where I can get friends, and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, Bernadette, and all of you who are over there, please like and share, like and share, like and share. I'm so excited to have you, Daryl Jones. Of course, later on today, you will be on Tuesday, as you are every Tuesday, with attorney Barbara Arnwine at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on WOL out of DC. Tremendous show that you've got. Curry Peterson Smith, what did you say? Now you feel like your family? I told you were. Institute for Policy Studies, their Michael Ratner Fellow. That's right. He does such great in the international space. But this guy right here, Dave Zirin, I haven't seen him in a 1,000 years, and I'm so grateful that he is here. He is a brilliant sports writer. I've never seen anyone quite be able to blend so much historical context, so much cultural sensitivity and knowledge and historical knowledge into the sports writing space. He really is a giant who sits among us today. He is the sports editor, I would say, at The Nation magazine, and of course, the Edge of Sports television spot and podcast. Edge of Sports, everybody, check him out. Dave Zirin, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thanks so much, Santita. And like I said to you on text, I want to talk about Kendrick, but I really want to talk about the I Am Somebody ad. Where
what? You can start there.
Can I start there, please? Because this is actually very important, because the Super Bowl is usually about performative diversity. Like, oh, we care so much about Black people. We care so much about women. We care so much about breast cancer. And then the reality, though, is, it's a bunch of almost entirely white billionaires who support Trump pulling the string, and Colin Kaepernick never got his job back. That's the reality behind the scenes. And so it's all so performative. But this year, it had such a different tinge, almost like they didn't get the memo of where we are in February 2025, as opposed to, say, February 2024. Because how can you watch an ad raising awareness about breast cancer and not think about the NIH getting defunded? How can you see this beautiful ad for Big Brothers and Big Sisters of people of all shades saying, I am somebody, and not think about that we have somebody in office who is saying to them, no, you are nobody. Your history, everything. You are nobody. And that's what framed everything for me. And it was obviously underlined profoundly by having Donald Trump, as we heard over and over, the first sitting president, sitting there in the luxury box, trying to turn New Orleans into a fascist Mardi Gras, which is especially the case if people know how the police and military swarmed that city over the last, making life so difficult for its Black residents almost primarily. in that I spoke to activists down there. It was extremely difficult. And I'll stop there because I want to hear what these other voices have to say. But I wanted to set that up because you have to think about Donald Trump. He's all in on the Kansas City Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes' wife, who's the quarterback, some MAGA head. So, Donald Trump is there. Donald Trump has plans to go out to the field after the Chiefs' victory. Then you have the Eagles kick the snot out of the Chiefs in the first half. Then you have Kendrick Lamar slap Donald Trump's mediocre orange face with his genius. And not just Kendrick, but the cooperative of dancers, choreographers, the singers. I mean, it was a collective of Black excellence. And I'm not even getting to the politics of it. And then Donald Trump leaves. And he's so mad he cancels the penny, I guess. And so I'm going to stop there because I just wanted to set up the context of Kendrick's performance. And that's where I'll shut my mouth.
No. Please be candid, David Zirin. But because you did want to start with "I Am Somebody," which of course is the mantra popularized by Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I may be poor, I may be Black, I may be marginalized. Anything that the world says that makes me nothing. I am somebody. I am beautiful. I must be respected. I must be protected. Never neglected. Nobody will save us, for us, but us. All of that. And thank you for that, because it shocked me to see it. And it's amazing, because my father really, really wanted to go. My mother put the kibosh on it. She said, it takes too many people to move you around, and you'll come back here and you'll be exhausted for a whole week. No. Oh, he's burnt. But as soon as he saw that commercial, he started to smile. And it made me cry. I said, you've lived long enough to see just how deeply you and Dr. King's work has penetrated the culture, and Reverend James Bevel, and Dorothy Height, and so many nameless, faceless people who we don't know. And that's what got to me. Because that's really what that was. And I think you're right, Dave, at that time, because why did you want to start here? Because you started off your piece in The Nation, Curry, as you could see, and as you could see Daryl, talking about how people were marginalized and made to feel like they were nobody, right? Mm-hmm. Why did you start your piece there? Because I see a connection between your wanting to start the show here and starting your piece there. You didn't start with Kendrick Lamar. You started with, wait a minute, the unhoused people, all the things that were, all of the oppression that was being forced upon the people of New Orleans. Dave.
Yeah, and I still want to hear from everybody.
Of course, I will, but
But I just want to say that I started with the fact that they, on threat of arrest and on the governor's orders, shipped 100 unhoused people to a freezing cold, like factory, empty factory, basically a warehouse, and it cost $17.5 million to basically keep them there interned. And if you think about, I spoke to one activist who talked about the amount of housing that could have been built for $17.5 million. And also all their possessions, it's not like they brought their possessions with them. they were torn to bits by if they had a tent, if they had, goods, family stuff. Just everything they had to leave behind. Who knows what's happened to it. So it was barbaric. And then also I feel like I am somebody, and having a president telling these young people that they're nobody, trying to erase them, their culture. I wanted to start there. And one thing I forgot to say, the NFL taking end racism out of the end zone very conspicuously with Trump's appearance. And it made me think so much about how in politics, timing is really everything, because we've spent the last 4 years looking at that end racism in the end zone and rolling our eyes. Like, okay, that's some performative anti-racism there for a bunch of Trump supporters who won't give Colin Kaepernick his job. But when it actually will matter, what was going to matter, to have Donald Trump see the words end racism, to have the country see end racism, that's when the NFL balks and takes it away. So, sometimes things can matter in one moment and they don't matter in other moments. This is when it really would have mattered, and the NFL blinked, which again, it's to set the stage for Kendrick, because this is the lion's den. And I didn't even talk about who's in the stands for $15,000 a ticket. This is the lion's den he's walking into to put on this showcase of Black culture, Black struggle, Black excellence in a way that's so abstract and so artistic and so non-literal that it's something that we are going to, I think, be writing papers about and looking over frame by frame. I'm still learning stuff about it. Like, I got an email today about check out the hairstyles of the dancers whose faces are covered and how the hairstyles are working and the amount of thought into symbology that Kendrick Lamar does, it has to be respected, even if you're not a fan. And obviously, I largely am, had disagreements on some stuff, but it's one of those things, someone once said to me, Muhammad Ali may not have had the greatest politics over the course of his life, but what matters about him is when he had to stand up, no one stood up taller. And that's how I felt about seeing Kendrick Lamar last night. Okay, he and I may not agree on a billion things, but who cares? When it mattered in front of Trump, in the Lion's Den, at Fascist Mardi Gras, he brought the thunder. And it wasn't the thunder that maybe people who agree with us politically wanted. You saw some of I wish he'd gotten up there and ripped up a picture of Elon Musk or whatever. But it's people don't even understand. Kendrick Lamar is not, Jesse Jackson. Kendrick Lamar is an artist who deals with abstractions and symbology and forces you to actually engage with his art. And I was reminded last night about how powerful that can be, how powerful it is if we draw different interpretations and then can come together and speak about those interpretations. Today has been so rich for me in these kinds of discussions and in learning for me, just of what's come out of what was a 12.5-minute halftime show, just an unbelievable capsule of Black excellence on every conceivable level in the face of someone who is canceling Black History Month.
Well, he can certainly try.
Amen.
But it's here to stay. And I say, but God. And you have Jalen Hurts, who has a Black fiance who's very accomplished, a Black female agent, his whole management team, Black women, and a Black father who has stood strong. Then he brought out Serena Williams, who's had a Black father who stood strong, who she says, were it not for Richard and my mother Oracine, and more than that, my sister, and more than that, Jehovah, because she's Jehovah's Witness, God. I mean, he went deep in the culture. And I think that for all marginalized people, because this is not, obviously you're not Black, but you are part of a marginalized group. And I think that, this is when intersectionality really does matter, because those of us who've been locked on the outside, we have to get each other, because it's our collective stories, Dave. I think that's why it's resonated with you so deeply, because it's our story. I can't hold that. I can't hold that for myself. But let's get to the young gun you are youthful, Daryl, but I'm gonna go to the actual kid here, because Curry is about to jump out of his seat.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, Zyron had set me up. I mean, and I'll just say, Zyron's not Black, but Zyron loves Black people, and if you love Black people, it helps you. I mean, there's a lot of good things that come from that, but it helps you understand this country. Do you know what I mean? If that's your orientation, if your orientation's on Black folks, you have a certain clarity. So I just wanted to say that. And, this performance, let me start where Dave started, which is one time for the choreographers, the dancer. I mean, Jake, I was watching this and I was like, Kendrick and his team deserve every award that they have gotten, because just, obviously he's an incredible lyricist. Oh yeah. But as a performer, as an artist, I was reminded I so much respect for Kendrick. I'm not dyed-in-the-wool Kendrick fan.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Beyonce fan, big time, and it reminded me of when you remember when she did when she headlined the Super Bowl for the first time, and like caused a power surge, and actually everything just like shorted out for a second,
Mm-hmm.
and people just like she did this performance and she stopped. And we were like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt after watching the Kendrick. I was like, what just happened? Actually, like what just happened artistically? What just happened politically? There was so much there, and it was so clever and textured. In a time that feels so flat and stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like you watch TV now or like listen to the news. It just feels like everything's in black and white, and this performance felt like it was in color. Finally. I mean, let's just talk about like Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam. I'm like, what is happening here? Is he embodying Uncle Sam? Is he mocking Uncle Sam? Is
this Django?
like what is this? You know what I mean? And
I
the
think he was
entire
all of that, though,
time.
Curry.
What's that?
I think he was all of that.
He was all. I think so too. But that's just it. Is there were moments of that performance where I was like, okay, I think I know what's going on, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, I don't. Let me actually not try to understand what's going on and just experience this, which is what art is about, right? And the best is Kendrick the whole time has that smile where he's like, I know I'm making you think. I know that I am hacking this whole thing, and you're just going to have to take this in. And it just if there's nothing else, I think about the fact, and he starts the set, or early in the set, he says, basically, through Samuel L. Jackson's character, I know that y'all are waiting for the Drake diss track. I know that's what y'all are waiting for. And he's like, we're gonna hold on. It's actually he says it to these women, right? Like their characters. He says, we're gonna make them wait for this. And there is a whole generation of folks who have learned about Kendrick through Not Like Us. For me, Kendrick was We Gonna Be All Right. And the performance, with all that's going on, I feel like that was the message he was giving is, look, I know this is wild, but we're going to be all right. So I think it was an incredible performance. And if I could just say one more thing, there's something about a collection of artists that he assembled, Black artists who he assembled, who are not only such icons and so beloved in Black America, but who have broken ground and raised the bar in mainstream contexts and frankly in white dominated contexts. Samuel L. Jackson in Hollywood, Kendrick Lamar getting the Pulitzer, Serena Williams in tennis. Do you know what I mean?
Doing the Crip Walk.
Doing the Crip Walk. That's who we brought on stage. And it's the takeaway for me, we're going to be all right.
We're going to be all right. And because I remember when she did the Crip Walk, Dave, at Wimbledon. What was that, 2015 or 2016?
Yeah.
And she was excoriated for that. And I have to tell you, in real time, I was like, go, Serena, go. Because I knew the Crips, although it was problematic because her sister, Yatunde, was actually accidentally killed in a drive-by by the Crips. And that was painful. But they are also a group that protected them on the courts. And, which was something that Black people used to do. If you saw a Black child or a Black person in the neighborhood who had a gift, I don't care what everybody did, you protected them. You wouldn't let them steer. You would not let them veer off course. You wouldn't let them get into drugs. You wouldn't let them drink. You made sure that they stayed on point and developed their gifts, and they protected them on those courts in Compton. And so I never, ever forgot that. And so when she did that at Wimbledon and last night, I felt her going to that. because she took a lot of heat because people said, these people killed your sister. But I saw it in another way. But Daryl, everybody wants to hear from all you guys. So, Daryl.
Well, what Zuri and Dave have already said is just incredible. But Santita, I sort of took a step back even further, perhaps, than where they were, because I think that to appreciate the performance, the halftime performance, you start with just understanding what we're walking into at that moment in the Super Bowl. We're walking in through this moment, not just with Donald Trump deciding to be there, right, to be the first sitting president to be there, but then, of course, you also have the whole Elon Musk racism that surrounded it, all the hatred that surrounded in this, and his presence and just being at the Super Bowl and what that would mean. And then I went from there and I went to, and it was really interesting, I went from there and I went to the end racism that they decided to remove, right? I was like, this Super Bowl just seemed to be so layered and this societal messaging that it was just incredible. So once we get past the end racism, and what did they replace it with? Choose love. I'm not exactly certain, what they were heading for with that, but I don't think it got there, right? But then we went from the end racism, and then, before we got to even the halftime, right? I had to take my hat off to Latticy, because when she hit that lift every voice and sing, right? Incredible. But remember this, right? That was in the face of adversity, right? Because when they said they were going to have it sung, you had all these, racist folks that said they weren't going to tune in. We're not going to be a part of it. We don't want to be there. And all of this pushback from that very beginning. And then from there, we then lead up to, and I've got to tell you, once we got to the halftime show and I saw Samuel L. Jackson, I was glued. Guys, like, I don't know what's getting ready to come out of his mouth. Right, because he has such a way of being so real and so hard with regards to what he's saying. So to see him dressed as the Uncle Sam, I'm trying to untangle. What is this message, right? This black Uncle Sam that is Samuel L. Jackson, who always has this hitting hard message that my goodness, where is that going? And I think that it didn't disappear. He wasn't on and off, right? He was on, he stayed and came back. And I remember him saying to the artist, what was it? You need to humble yourself, right? Humble yourself, right? And the response from that being an even deeper message of it, of defining the blackness, of it, defining the existence, of defining the role, and refusing to back down. So when I look at and I think about all of this that went on, one of the things that stood in my mind is when he was talking about the humble yourself, was that the response is, I won't be silenced. I won't be silenced. And that's what was kept coming about, was the resistance that Kendrick Lamar was throwing out, was just constant resistance. And it took me a while. I'm going to be honest with you. I had to talk to 3, 4, 5 different people before I could finally figure it all out, because there was just so much that was going on. I was like, did I just miss? What did I just see? Right? And you sort of had to go back. And I can tell you from my experience that this is one of the first halftime shows that I know of that you have to go back several times to start understanding all that was going on there, because the artistic value and the messaging was just so deep and so heavy laden that you had to go back and look at it. You talked about the dancing part of it, and I was trying to understand the Serena Williams connection. Was this a shot at Drake because it was her ex, girlfriend and all? I mean, I wasn't certain. And then one of the folks that I spoke to said, well, you understand that the red and blue, it was trying to show the division. It was supposed to be, the Crips and the Bloods, and they're coming together, right? Everyone's coming together to stand up against this racism and to stand up against this, the way that the country is moving. So when I took all that into account, it was incredible. It was an incredible halftime show that I think that we will be decoding for some time to come.
Yeah. Dave, I think we're trying to decode it now, because something always comes to you as the more you talk about it.
Yeah. And one thing I think we need to talk about, which is one of the biggest topics of conversation out of this, is the flag. And let's talk about the flag for a second. And this is so interesting to me because you have I'm speaking very broadly here because we all know people have different opinions. You know, skin color does not mean uniformity of opinion, but largely this electricity from Black America, what they were seeing, and largely a lot of white people, particularly on the right side of the spectrum, either like slandering it, throwing slurs at it, or just being like, I don't get it. Or I was in the bar with the sound down, who cares? Or someone call the manager, you know, all that stuff. You know, and so that there was that approach to it as well. But like the electricity that I think people were feeling in their homes, that a lot of Black America was feeling in their homes, was on that stage. So when this dancer unfurls a flag that says Gaza, Sudan, with the two on top of each other and stands on a car holding it up,
What did you think about that?
Well, I want to say, yeah. First, I mean, I thought, given the level of crisis in Gaza and the Sudan, it was very brave. And you know, because when we're talking about life or death, you know, what is a moment like that? But the thing that was so great is that it fit with the show, even if it wasn't part of the show, because people were just getting like into it and like thinking like, okay, you know, and internationalism, as we well know, is such a cornerstone of Black politics over the last 100 years, Black American politics over the last 100 years. And so you've got like this Gaza, Sudan holding it up. But like, if you watch it, what I find so interesting is not the flag as much as the dancers turning, being like, oh, look at that. And then bam, the fists go up. Tommy Smith, John Carlos style, surrounded with raised fists, looking right at that flag. And so it was a vibe, is what I'm saying. Like if that had been done when, you know, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers did the halftime show, it would not have been a vibe in the same way. You know, it vibed with everything that was happening on that stage. Because it was part of a continuum about Black resistance, about resistance of the quote unquote wretched of the earth, as Fanon said, about standing up to Donald Trump. Like I said earlier, it's like Donald Trump, who now, you know, is an imperialist. He never said he was going to be in the campaign. It's like, it's got this, it had a certain energy to it that was so special because it wasn't, you know, Kendrick doing the I Have a Dream speech. You know, he was forcing you to listen and understand. Like, I don't think, like, this is just an example. Like, I don't think Curry's wrong about saying that the all right message. I also don't agree with it, that was the message. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's what great art does. You can draw different interpretations from different things. Because the line from All Right, to me, was what he focused on the 40 acres and a mule line while walking through down steps the dancers who are like an American flag. He was literally tearing an American flag in two by talking about the broken promises of white America. Like, and that opening line about, you know, revolution, it will not be televised, right time, wrong guy. It's like, we're pondering this. And what he's saying to me is like, things aren't all right, but do not look to me to carry the weight of this and be your martyr. It's like, things are not all right. I'm an artist. You get to work. Again, that might not be what he meant at all, you know, but that's me bringing my baggage to understanding it and the relationship between what's in my brain and what he's doing. And that's really what great art does. It meets in the middle between the artist and what they're trying to do, and then the person consuming that art trying to figure out what it means.
But it's supposed to bring out something. It's supposed to bring out your lived experience. That's what great art does. You know, and when you see art at different times in your life, art means something different to you. You know, you can see Gone with the Wind, the first time I saw it as a little girl, meant different things to me at different points in my life. You know, when I look at the original Roots today, I'm like, it's so subversive. How did they even let that on TV? Because they let out all the secrets. You know, what if Dr. Francis Cress Welsing say the keys to the colors? Woo! The ISIS papers, they let out all the secrets. And I've kind of felt like he was doing that kind of sort of last night. But it was because honestly, I missed the beginning of the third quarter because I had to go back to the beginning and look at it a couple of times because I said I gotta unpack this because I was looking to see, I wanted to make sure he's using an all black cast.
Mm-hmm.
So he's making a point. He's making a lot of points here. And he did not change the black vernacular. He stayed right in it. And I thought he was so deep in the paint, and not on upper class black culture, which I think is very key. He took the bottom and brought it to the top. But he elevated them in the same way I would say that on his best day, Tyler Perry does. He really amplifies the best of working class black people, and my favorite show is the Cosby Show, because what I love about them is that they were real parents with children who needed to behave, and they imparted wonderful values. But there's so much richness in every part of the culture, and this is such a rich time, and I think that people are looking. That's right, Robert. Kendrick and Serena are both from Compton. And, it reminds me of, the parable about Jesus. Can anything good basically come out of the ghetto? And I think he was speaking to Appalachia last night, Dave and Curry and Daryl. I think he was speaking to people in the Mississippi Delta. Anyone who's been down, who's been born, who lives on the downside of advantage could get something from that last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say one sentence, but they have to want to engage with the art. And that's where you see the wall in a lot of white America right now that maybe didn't exist in the same way when Roots was on and all of America was watching. That's all I wanted to say.
No, but that's a lot. But why do you think that's important? Where has the wall gone up?
Well, Roots, was it 77 when Roots debuted? I mean, you're talking
January.
about like still like this sense that there's this black freedom struggle, and that this is a part of that struggle, is a reckoning with this history, and the effect of that struggle impacted white consciousness to the point where they said, we have to know this history too, and they tuned in by the tens of millions. Today, it's an era of white grievance, and this idea that white people are the real victims of racism, and Donald Trump plays into that, like, oh, we have to worry about white landowners in South Africa. That was a Nazi message board issue as recently as a few years ago, and now it's U.S. policy. I mean, so much of the old barbarism is being brought back right now by Trump to fortify his own power, and that creates fear. It creates instability. It creates depression, but it also creates among some people like, oh, I don't have to listen to them anymore because Donald Trump has given me permission not to.
But you know what? It also gives you Kendrick.
Well, that's what I was going to say,
Okay.
and I'm sorry, it's dinner time on the East Coast, so I'm going to have to take off.
No, say what you want to say.
But I'll just say, but guess what? Those folks had, if they were watching the Super Bowl, which is the most televised event, you know what I mean, in this country, they had to, either watch or turn the volume down or go get a snack or whatever, because at the end of the day, guess who they had on the Super Bowl? It was Kendrick Lamar, and guess, all those. There's a lot of white folks who voted for Trump whose kids are listening to Kendrick, right? And I think that's for me, that's the smile that Kendrick has, is he's like, I know who laughs last. He's not saying it is all right. He's saying it's going to be all right. Because guess what? I'm the one on TV right now. Not the Donald. So I take comfort in that, and he took that spot, and I think went as far as he could go in this moment. So with that, I have to take off, but I would love to come back. We can talk about this for hours and episodes.
Oh yeah, don't worry. We're going to continue to unpack this. Don't worry.
Peace. Have a good night, everybody.
Much love, Daryl.
But Santita, one of the things I had just been wondering about and just trying to figure out is, what did the NFL know with regards to the performance?
Mm.
Did they? Yeah, I mean, I would think that they would have been, watching or doing some type of, watch the rehearsals with the music. They try to control every word,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, it's that type of entity that wants to control the messaging, wants to control the words, wants to control the imaging, all of that stuff. And I just wonder, did they intentionally do this? I just can't believe that this is something that they would sign off on. It just goes against removing in racism from the end zone to have this type of person performing and this type of performance going on during halftime. So I'm just wondering, was there a disconnect that was there, or was it intentional? I just don't know.
Well, no, Dave, what do you think happened? Because you do
Yeah,
know
I can
those high
speak.
profile events.
Yeah, like one of the things is that this stuff started in motion as far back as 6 months ago. And so it becomes kind of consecrated, this rehearsals, putting it together. The NFL's got the season to pay attention to. Kendrick is so brilliant at symbology, slipping in messages. I'm sure it went over some people's heads. I mean, the NFL is notorious for not having Black leadership, despite being built on Black bodies and Black minds. So who really knows what they were able to compute and not compute as it was coming along? We're still trying to figure it out, So, and who knows how, I look forward to that story about how it comes together. But I also know that because I spoke to the NFL about this, they had done all this planning for months, like Lift Every Voice and Sing, like Ledacey. That was all going to happen. Trombone Shorty, they wanted it to be like a Black History Month thing, a New Orleans thing, bring all of that together. John Baptiste, who's from New Orleans, with the national anthem, I don't think they had a clue that this wave of reaction was going to hit this country, and that Trump, even if he was elected, would be that guy. And so he brings a different kind of energy to the Super Bowl. And there's a big part of me that thinks next year the halftime show will be a hologram of Hank Williams Jr. But it was almost like this was
and Patsy Cline. But
yes,
I'm not mad. Now wait, I'm an artist. I love them both, but I think they just might do that.
Yeah.
But Dave, come on, Dave. And I think Daryl, you bring up a great point. At these events, they're heavily choreographed.
Yes.
Dave, when I sang the national anthem at the Clinton inauguration in '97, they were so worried that I was going to break out into the Marvin Gaye version. Honest to God. I mean, they were like, you do know this is the last time that this will be sung at an inauguration in this century, in this millennium. I'm like, okay. You do know this is Dr. King's birthday. This guy, Tom, bless his heart, he was my chaperone, because they give you a chaperone, right? And we had to go pre-record it in case it was too cold, blah, blah, blah. I said, but I will sing it. But in case my voice goes, they have something, they're ready to go with it. I mean, it's just, when Reverend had spoken at the Democratic conventions, they wanted his speech because they wanted to know what he was going to say. Now, of course, Jesse Jackson will go extemporaneous, and bam, that's the end of that. But they want to, they don't want you on their stage. And I'm wondering, though, Dave, because you're very, very keyed into the culture, into Black culture. I'm wondering if it went over their heads.
I think that's got to be a part of the story. And I don't have the answers to some of this stuff. I can't wait for it to come out. I mean, a book might be written someday about how this thing was planned and executed. And I will be buying that book day one. So some of this we're going to find out. Some of it was that the NFL, which is so dependent on Black labor, had already stepped in it and had to go forward with something even in this era. In which I think the end racism was gone, probably because they had a sense of what Kendrick was going to do, is something I think now. So it wouldn't be like that overwhelming for the orange fragile baby in the big box.
Leave him alone.
So.
But I think it was a lot, but I think some of it was so laden with subtlety that a lot, I think, because we're trying to unpack it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're awake. We're not woke. We're awake. We know what's up. And that's why we were all like this. Are you serious right now? What is he doing? I'm wondering because the NFL and baseball, when you get to those events, and we've been, first of all, like you said, getting into the stadium, it costs an enormous amount of money to go to the World Series, to go to the All-Star game in baseball. It now is for the corporate people. I mean, those are the tickets. If you go to a baseball stadium, tiers 2 and 3 are corporate boxes. I'm like, wait, do you all even think about like the fans anymore? No. The Super Bowl is not for poor people. You can't get in the perimeter. You can't get to the parties. None of that. So my point in saying all of that is, I'm wondering if they missed it. Because I can't believe, because they heard Sam Jackson, who pound for pound is really the biggest movie star in the world. He has started, his movies have grossed more money than any movie star in history. That's that. So he's a global superstar. So there's that. So they're like, oh, Sam Jackson. Yeah. Okay. Kendrick Lamar, the Black Panther. Yeah. I think they might have just got stuck there. That Drake and all that they missed, they didn't know that. Or they might have read about it and gone, tossed it off. I just cannot believe that you called them the subversive and you know it's true. I can't believe look at what they did to Colin Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm. And think about that Kendrick and I'm sorry, Darryl, but think about that he started his performance not on a knee, but in a crouch. And Kendrick is way, way too self-aware to not know on a football field what it means for a Black person to go down close to one knee. But that's Kendrick too. Like if he'd actually done the knee, that's way too on the nose for Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
He wants you to think. He's not trying to shove it in your face. That's why I said people shouldn't be criticizing him who like are on our side of things because he didn't like stand up there and read a pamphlet. That's not who he is.
But they wanted him to do that because Dave and Darryl, but Dave, please speak to this first. He's taken a lot of heat for the flag. Mm-hmm. They said, well, oh yeah, of course he didn't address the flag, and I wouldn't expect him to address the flag. I'm like, I'm not so sure that was an accident. Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure because, first of all, the president was there, so the Superdome was hermetically sealed. On any given Super Bowl, you can't move around. You don't have freedom of movement in those places. You really don't. Mm-hmm. You can't get to the upper tiers. You don't really move around. You don't move around the stadium a lot. You get to your seat and you go to the restroom and then you leave, or you go into a suite and that's where you are. That's it. Mm-hmm. So now, and I'm just so that person was part of the team. I'm not mad at them, but they kept on going, and I think that built into that was, they're going to come out with the flag and somebody's going to pull them off, and fine, we're going to keep on going because they never missed a beat. It didn't throw anyone off. Mm-hmm.
It's a very powerful point. I can't wait for the book.
I don't know, but you gotta continue to ask because you gotta write the book. I don't know how many people I would trust to write the book, Dave.
I'll review it. I'm not writing. I'll signal boost it. I'm not writing it.
Well, but where do you think? How do you think the conversation is going to continue to go on this? I mean, where do you think that this is? Where do you think this is going to go? Because we used to have artists. Mm-hmm. We had the Donny Hathaways, we had the Robertas, we had the Marvin Gayes. Stevie Wonder's built a whole catalog on message music. Mm-hmm. That's, and they shut that, and the record industry shut that down.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki Giovanni even had a big rap song 50 plus years ago. Remember Truth Is On Its Way?
Mm.
She did it with the Southern California Community Choir, James Cleveland's choir. And it was a big hit in R&B. And these artists who were, I mean, and look, even just, I would say, just Peter, Paul, and Mary. I mean, Pete Seeger, Richie Havens. I mean, these people who were really, Bob Dylan, they were really speaking to George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor. Those are real artists who were like, you know what? Forget the consequences. This is truth. Because that's what artists do, Dave.
They're truth tellers, absolutely. And I think this is going to be discussed for as much as people feel hope. If people feel like they can resist, if people could feel like they can push back against the tide, I truly, truly believe that it will be a reference point as we talk about a confidence being rebuilt to stand up to the wave that's been coming at us and crashing on our heads. And if that doesn't happen, it'll become more of a museum piece, frankly. Like, do you remember that brilliant artistic show by Kendrick Lamar? And it'll always get that respect. But I really, really do think it has the chance to be something more.
But you know, when and I'm thinking back when Kendrick Lamar was announced as being the person that was going to perform at halftime, there was pushback that was there. There were people that said he was too political, right? They didn't know what was going to happen. And so when I think of that piece, and you got to remember, you know, the NFL also sent an apology letter to Lil Wayne, right? Because they thought Lil Wayne should have done the halftime show. But you know, when I think about that fact, when they're talking about Kendrick Lamar being perhaps too political, putting him in a position that, you know, perhaps he wouldn't be able to necessarily maneuver the ground that he was in. And then I think about, you know, when we're talking about New Orleans, right? We're talking about an area that's on high alert, right? Because they had just come out of having that terrorist attack that was there in New Orleans. So the everyone that's coming onto that field, you can rest assured, you know, that they're patting them down, they're going through all this stuff and everything else. So I think that sort of weighs in my mind, because I'm wondering at that point, then is it really planned with the Palestinian flag and the Sudan flag? I mean, you really got to ask that question. And if it's not planned, how did they know to make the arrests? Why did they run out to grab them? They wouldn't know it's part of the show or not part of the show. So, yeah, all these things just sort of play up in my mind when I'm going through this. I'm like, you know, I think it was planned. I think that was part of it. And I think that it just fit too squarely into the whole resist theme and all that was being presented there by Kendrick Lamar.
Because I think this is about the resistance, you know, and resisting the status quo, resisting the prevailing narrative. Because, I mean, remember, he got shot in his in this revelry, right? And in this revelry. And to have someone arrested in the midst of all this, as we're watching censorship, it was like, it was so fitting for where we are in America right now. Do you have the freedom to speak? Or do you not? You know, I couldn't help but think that was smooth. But I do think Bernadette says probably went over heads. I think that, you know, these people are so blinded to what's happening in America and what's happening throughout the world, that it just kind of went over their heads. I mean, and I think that's the danger of where we are right now. When you have the Elon Musk, an Afrikaner who's trying to bring Afrikaners over here, people who resisted Black majority rule. I mean, Dave, that's dangerous, and the corporate media won't even talk about it.
No, or they treat it as a detail, like, oh, the latest news alert, and then, oh, wait, who's at the Grammys? You know, it's like, instead of treating it with the gravity that such a thing deserves. And I think that's intentional. I think a lot of these institutions are in a state of premature surrender or voluntary surrender. And frankly, less worried about their own extermination than they are about either raising people's hopes or fighting back against Trump and actually showing some spine. And I think part of that is that institutions like, I'm just throwing it out there, like the New York Times, they have leadership that's not against a lot of what Trump is doing. And so it's like, okay, then I guess this is where we're going to be. There are worse things, not caring about how much the weight of that falls on people's backs. But yeah, I do believe it's a white supremacist agenda. I do believe it's openly talked about in the White House. I think that Elon Musk is as toxic a person as we have seen on these shores in the last 150 years. I'll go there. And I think that I was talking to my wife about this today. We are 4 decades from the mass anti-apartheid solidarity movement with South Africa. Wow. We need a re-education of people of what it means. Because I also think a lot of people hear that and they're like, Afrikaan, white, South Africa, isn't that like that actress Charlize Theron? What's the, and not knowing that there's like a context and a history for what he's doing that is frankly rooted in revenge above all else. They're still mad at Mandela.
Yeah.
To take it out on this generation.
But but I think you're right. A re-education is needed because and I think that's the danger of not having. See, we were all part of this freedom struggle, the shanty towns, getting arrested at the embassy, all of that. That's our generation because that was our strike. We were striking at the empire and daring them to fight back. And yeah, Mandela's going to be free. We're going to make him free. And we had a Don't Choke on Coke campaign that Reverend started. And so you saw Coke machines being wheeled off campuses because you did anything that was South Africa adjacent. You did not touch. They had become this pariah state. People don't know that now.
American Express. Absolutely.
And they need to know that. Yeah. Well, you guys, I have like 3 or 4 minutes left. I'm going to let you all wrap things up. You all have got me so excited. I'm like this. I mean, really. And I'm waiting for that book. I know you don't want to write it, Dave, but okay. Daryl, no, I know you. Okay.
No, I'm waiting for Dave's book too. I've got to read it.
I can't wait. I'm waiting because
I'll do a proof. I'll do a proof for you. How's that, Dave?
Look,
there are some Kendrick code breakers out there who are are on levels. There are levels to this. There's some folks out there who just know how to code break this man because he operates in abstractions sometimes, but these are abstractions that are connected to a very concrete reality.
Okay, and. Well, I want you to close things out for us. Daryl, what do you want to say? And of course, every Tuesday on WOL with you and Barbara Arnwine, have your radio show. Tune in today. What are you going to be talking about today at 12 Eastern time?
Today at 12, we're going to be talking about the Metropolitan United Methodist Church here in Washington, D.C. that was able to get the naming rights, the copyright, and as well as the logo rights to the Proud Boys. And whenever they try to use it, whenever they paid for it, they got to pay you Metropolitan United Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. So we're going to be talking to the pastor there about that and that experience. And that segues perfectly, and I think into some quick closing thoughts with regards to the Super Bowl and Kendrick Lamar. We can't give up the fight, and that's what Kendrick Lamar was talking about. Was being certain that you stand still, that you stand firmly. Santita, as you like to say, 10 toes down in the moment for your rights. So my closing thoughts definitely are with that, which is that we're going to stand in the moment, we're going to stand 10 toes down, and we're going to be forceful with regards to standing for the rights of all Americans to exist and against racism in the United States.
Siren, Edge of Sports Podcast, Edge of Sports TV, The Nation. You close us out.
Just very briefly, what I think people are going to draw different kinds of inspiration from what Kendrick did. And the one that I am drawing is that we have to make dissent visible everywhere. We need even center stage at the Super Bowl in front of Donald Trump in the most militarized place in the country at that particular moment. We have to make dissent visible everywhere, because if we're not in a state of non-compliance with this extrajudicial government, then we are in a position of compliance. And we can't afford compliance right now. And the more we're able to make dissent visible, all I have to say is, we all know it, courage is contagious. Even a young person saying, I am somebody, in the face of an administration saying you are nobody, there is a power to that I think we can bring forward, because they're wrong that you are nobody and we are right.
Because you are somebody. I don't care where you have come from. Where you've come from is not where you need to end up being.
Mm-hmm.
Get on out there, everybody. You are somebody, and push back against all that is wicked, evil, and wrong. And push toward the creation of this beloved community. That is the ultimate goal. To have a community in which every human being can become the fulfillment of God's promise. God loves each of us so much. God knows every hair on our head. Everybody matters. Everybody is here to learn and to teach. There is no imperfect being on this earth. Sometimes our differently able brothers and sisters are teaching us to be more loving, more patient, more kind. You might be that person one day, or you might have a disability no one can see. So everybody, we need to come together. And we need to fight, not each other, but fight for that which is right. And remember, as Dave said, because it was on your mind all day, what did you say? I am what?
Somebody. I am somebody. And what you said, Santita, I may be poor, I am somebody. To say that at this moment, where they want us to prize the material off actually helping people and building that beloved community, I think is beautiful. I mean, you're talking about a beloved community. Trump is talking about selling crypto coins and trying to basically strip this country for parts. That's not a beloved community. So I just really appreciate you, Santita. I definitely appreciate you, Daryl, as well. Shout out to Curry. I think when I speak to you guys, I feel that community. And that's so important, because I feel like that's all we got at this point, because of the amount of power they're holding. But I think, like I said, we are many, they are few, and we are right, they are wrong. And I'm going to carry that with me going forward.
Amen.
We're on God's side. We're the majority. If it's just me and God, I'm good. Because we don't need anything else. Everything we need, we've got it. Come on, everybody. Subscribe to The Nation magazine. It is the premier magazine for progressives in the country. I have to tell you, one of the proudest moments that my father had in 1988 was being endorsed by this magazine, because it opened the door, and it made it very, very, it really opened the door for white progressives to step out on that candidacy. They did in droves. They did it in the 80s. They did it in 84, but they were able to express in 88. So Ned Beatty, the great actor, was out with us. Margot Kidder was on the road with us. Casey Kasem had his own bus in 83, registering people to vote. You know, we had a whole lot of wonderful people. And you know what? We can come together again. And I think that the blessing of this time, Dave Zirin and Daryl Jones, is that these tough times produce a Kendrick Lamar. Maybe if we didn't feel this, he wouldn't have given us this gift yesterday. Maybe if we didn't feel this, I Am Somebody would not. I mean, I Am Somebody meant something to Black people 50, 60 years ago. Dr. King talked about somebody, and his reverend grabbed it and made it into a chant that was empowering. But now it means something to everybody, because it was a rainbow of people we saw last night. Yes?
Yes.
Everybody needs to feel that they are somebody. And everybody needs to know that they are somebody. May God bless all of you. I love you so much. I love you, Daryl. I love you, Dave Zirin, my dear brother from another mother. Boom. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. God bless you, everybody. God bless.